If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. Dancing Plague of 1518, a bizarre epidemic. The Dancing Plague of 1518 was a strange and unexplained phenomenon that took place in the city of Strasbourg, in the Holy Roman Empire, modern-day France. In July 1518, a woman named Frau Trophia began dancing in the streets, and within a week, dozens of people had joined her. The dancing continued for several weeks, and it eventually led to hundreds of people participating, some of whom danced themselves to exhaustion or even death. The Dancing Plague of 1518, or Dance Epidemic of 1518, was a case of dancing mania that occurred in Strasbourg, Alsace, modern-day France, in the Holy Roman Empire from July 1518 to September 1518. Somewhere between 50 and 400 people took to dancing for weeks. There are many theories behind the phenomenon, the most popular being stress-induced mass hysteria, suggested by John Waller. Other theories include ergot and religious explanations. There is controversy concerning the number of deaths. The outbreak began in July 1518 when a woman called Frau Trophia began to dance fervently in a street in Strasbourg. 1. Trophia kept up the constant dancing for a week. Soon, 3 dozen others joined in. 4. By August, the dancing plague had claimed 400 victims. 4. Dancers were beginning to collapse. It is said some even died from a stroke or heart attack. 4. No one knew what caused this reaction, which meant no one understood how to remedy it. By early September, the outbreak began to subside. 5. When the dancers were sent to a mountain shrine to pray for absolution. 4. Historical documents, including physician notes, cathedral sermons, local and regional chronicles, and even notes issued by the Strasbourg City Council, are clear that the victims danced wink with a frown. 1. It is not known why. Historical sources agree that there was an outbreak of dancing after a single woman started dancing. 6. And the dancing did not seem to die down. It lasted for such a long time that it even attracted the attention of the authorities, until the Dancing Plague of 1518 was a mysterious and bizarre event that occurred in Strasbourg, a city in the Holy Roman Empire, now part of modern-day France, during the summer of 1518. The phenomenon began when a woman named Frau Trophia started dancing fervently in the streets for no apparent reason. What started as an isolated incident quickly escalated into a mass phenomenon involving hundreds of people. Here are some key details about the Dancing Plague of 1518. Outbreak. Frau Trophia's spontaneous dancing captivated onlookers, and within days, more people joined her in the dancing. The numbers continued to grow, and within a month, hundreds of individuals were caught up in the dancing frenzy. Compulsive dancing. Those affected by the phenomenon were compelled to dance without rest for hours, days, or even weeks. Reports described individuals collapsing from exhaustion, some even suffering injuries, and in some extreme cases, a few people reportedly danced themselves to death. Medical and religious response. Authorities at the time were perplexed by the situation. Medical professionals and local authorities attempted various interventions, including bringing in musicians to encourage the dancing in the hope that participants would dance out the afflicted state. Additionally, religious authorities organized processions and prayers to seek relief from what was perceived as a divine punishment. Theories and explanations. Over the centuries, various theories have been proposed to explain the dancing plague. These include ergot poisoning, a fungal infection of rye that can cause hallucinations and spasms, as well as stress-induced hysteria, mass psychogenic illness, and cultural contagion. Historical context. The dancing plague occurred during a period of economic hardship and social tension in Strasbourg. Some historians suggest that the stress and anxiety of the time may have contributed to the outbreak, possibly exacerbated by pre-existing cultural beliefs and rituals. Duration and subsequent events. The dancing persisted for several weeks before gradually declining. While the exact number of casualties is unclear, some historical accounts suggest that as many as 15 people died as a result of the compulsive dancing. The Dancing Plague of 1518 remains one of history's most perplexing and unexplained events. It continues to be a subject of fascination and speculation, with scholars exploring psychological, socio-cultural, and medical perspectives to better understand this peculiar episode in human history. Council gave up authority to the physicians, who prescribed the afflicted to dance themselves free of it. There are claims that guild halls were refurbished to accommodate the dancing, as well as musicians and strong people to help keep those dealing with the dancing mania to stay upright. This backfired, and the council was forced to ban public dancing as people danced in fear it was a punishment from St. Vitus, and to be free of sin many joined in on the dancing epidemic. The council went as far as to ban music, as well. Those who danced were then ordered to go to the shrine of St. Vitus, wore red shoes that were sprinkled with holy water and had painted crosses on the tops and soles. They also had to hold small crosses in their hands, and incense and Latin incantations were part of this ritual. Apparently forgiven by Vitus, word was spread of a successful ritual and the dancing plague had ended. Events similar to this are said to have occurred throughout the medieval age, including 11th century in Kalbeck, Saxony, where it was believed to be the result of demonic possession or divine judgment. In 15th century Apulia, Italy, a woman was bitten by a tarantula, the venom making her dance convulsively. The only way to cure the bite was to shimmy and to have the right sort of music available, which was an accepted remedy by scholars like Athanasius Kircher. Contemporaneous explanations included demonic possession and overheated blood. Controversy exists over whether people ultimately danced to their deaths. Some sources claim that for a period the plague killed around 15 people per day, but the sources of the city of Strasbourg at the time of the events did not mention the number of deaths, or even if there were fatalities. There do not appear to be any sources related to the events that make note of any fatalities. Ned Pennant-Ray also claims that the final death toll is not known, but if the claims of 15 people dying per day were true, then the toll could be into the hundreds. The main source for the claim is John Waller, who has written several journal articles on the subject and the book A Time to Dance, A Time to Die, The Extraordinary Story of the Dancing Plague of 1518. The sources cited by Waller that mention deaths were all from later accounts of the events. There is also uncertainty around the identity of the initial dancer, either an unnamed woman or Frau Trophia, and the number of dancers involved, somewhere between 50 and 400. Of the 6 chronicle accounts, 4 support Lady Trophia as the first dancer. Some believe the dancing could have been brought on by food poisoning caused by the toxic and psychoactive chemical products of ergot fungi, ergotism, which grows commonly on grains, such as rye, used for baking bread. Ergotamine is the main psychoactive product of ergot fungi. It is structurally related to the drug lysergic acid diethylamide, LSD-25, and is the substance from which LSD-25 was originally synthesized. The same fungus has also been implicated in other major historical anomalies, including the Salem witch trials. In The Lancet, John Waller argues that this theory does not seem tenable, since it is unlikely that those poisoned by ergot could have danced for days at a time. Nor would so many people have reacted to its psychotropic chemicals in the same way. The ergotism theory also fails to explain why almost every outbreak occurred somewhere along the Rhine and Moselle rivers, areas linked by water, but with quite different climates and crops. This could have been an example of fully developed cases of psychogenic movement disorder happening in mass hysteria or mass psychogenic illness, which involves many individuals suddenly exhibiting the same bizarre behavior. The behavior spreads rapidly and broadly in an epidemic pattern. This kind of comportment could have been caused by elevated levels of psychological stress, caused by the ruthless years, even by the rough standards of the early modern period. The people of Alsace were suffering. Waller speculates that the dancing was stress-induced psychosis on a mass level, since the region where the people danced was riddled with starvation and disease, and the inhabitants tended to be superstitious. 7 other cases of dancing plague were reported in the same region during the medieval era. This psychogenic illness could have created a chorea, from the Greek chorea meaning to dance, a situation comprising random and intricate unintentional movements that flit from body part to body part. Diverse choreas, St. Vitus dance, St. John's dance, and tarantism, were labeled in the Middle Ages, referring to the independent epidemics of dancing mania that happened in Central Europe, particularly at the time of the plague. The event inspired the 2022 choral song, Choreomania, by Florence and the Machine. It was the 3rd track on the album Dance Fever, which took its title from the song.